Joining me on Impact Catalyst today is Cameron Macleish from 360 Eats. Welcome, Cameron. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Well, let's start with an overview of 360 Eats. What do you have going on?
So we're a new 501c3 startup in the Tampa Bay area. Our mission is to create a just and sustainable food system free from hunger and food waste, and overall to mend what we would consider a broken food system. We know that 40% of food goes to waste on a yearly basis in the United States alone. We also know that roughly 1 in 8 Americans are considered food insecure. These figures combined show proof of a broken food system. So our mission is to basically mend the gaps, bridge the gaps between food waste, hunger, and environmental sustainability. So we're 100% mobile. Our programs consist of 3 different components. The first one is food rescue. So anytime an organization like a restaurant or a fellow nonprofit, food bank, et cetera, has extra food, we have a mobile service that will go out and collect that good food and prevent it from otherwise going to waste. The second part of the program is our mobile soup kitchen. So we work out of a licensed commissary kitchen. Our head chef is actually my mother, Ellen. She's a professional sous chef who works at the Fenway in Dunedin. And she transforms that food that would have otherwise gone to waste into nutritious gourmet meals for the food insecure and the hungry in our communities. And then any food scraps that we have left over throughout the cooking process, maybe we've got an orange peel or a rind or something from a gourd. We then utilize that in our third program, which is the growing food program, where we grow or we turn those food scraps into compost. Which is then eventually in the future, we'd like to expand that so that we're utilizing the compost to promote the buildup of community gardens in areas that would be considered food deserts. So that's in a nutshell what it is that we're currently doing.
Well, it's ambitious. What was the path to come to creating this? Was there something you experienced in the last couple of years, or an observation you had that led you to kind of have this idea, and then what sort of took it from that level to actually making it real?
Yeah, there was a bit of a story behind it. So I had been traveling. I've got the wanderlust bug. I like to travel, and I found myself in Australia, kind of traveling around. I went to New Zealand and Southeast Asia, and along the travels, I was introduced to a community of people would call them dumpster divers. Essentially, what that is they're people who go into the dumpsters of grocery stores and pull out all of the perfectly good food that these stores throw away at the end of each day. My first reaction when I first encountered this community was, that's absolutely disgusting. I can't believe you're eating food out of a dumpster. And then they invited me to come and see what it was really about. And, opening up the dumpster for the first time, it was like opening up a treasure chest. It was just a impossible amount of food that was, good food that was sitting in this dumpster. And it really, it really led me to rethink our food system. And, I embarked on my travels, and I tried to see, if the food waste was an issue, if it wasn't just an isolated issue, if this was, a global issue. And, based off of my own experience, it was the same story in Australia. It was the same story in New Zealand, parts of Southeast Asia, and then, US as well. So I created a cooking show, it was a YouTube cooking show called Cooking with Trash, where we would dumpster dive all this perfectly good food, bring it back to my mother's house. Her being a professional chef, I'd say, can you make something out of this? And we turn this food into gourmet meals. And that kind of picked up traction. We were on NBC's Today Show. I wrote an article for Huffington Post. 60 Second Docs did a documentary on us. Garden Culture magazine. We did a bunch of different, little pieces there, exposing the realities of food waste. And it was incredible to see the reaction through that. I'd have personal emails sent to me, of people in different parts of the world saying, wow, I had no idea that this was an issue until now. You are literally exposing something that I would have otherwise never known about. And I think it's that disconnect, as the consumer within our food system. We don't know where our food is being produced. We do not know where it goes. And I think because we're not involved in either of those parts of the food system, we've become blind to the realities of which, what's really happening to our food, how it's being grown and how it's being disposed of. And so it was a great thing to start, but it quickly dawned upon me that this was by no means cooking with trash was by no means a viable solution. You can't expect people to be jumping into dumpsters. It's not a viable way to tackle food waste or food insecurity. So that's what led us to create a registered 501c3 charity 360 Eats, which rescues the food before it hits the dumpster. That's the key part there. Our goal is to basically prevent any food from hitting that dumpster and utilizing all of that good food to then feed those who are food insecure and hungry. So,
Where have you found niches of this available food? There are things like Feeding Tampa Bay and the free clinic. It's actually pretty competitive to get Publix, and has people knocking on their door to come pick up their food all the time. And you have to get down to a pretty granular level before you'll find maybe independent restaurants and things. But I think even chain restaurants tend to have agreements in place with food insecurity organizations in the area. So, have you identified pockets of sort of underserved places that have food waste that are being underserved by these other organizations?
Yeah, absolutely. And that was one of my worries going in, because I know with the efforts behind Feeding Tampa Bay and Tampa Bay Network to End Hunger and other organizations, there's a lot of food rescue going on in the Tampa Bay area, which is amazing to see. The unfortunate side of it is that what we've also come to find out through trial and error, doing our own programs, is that there are still many businesses that are not, do not have that food being rescued. Or one of our partners is Aldi. We're partnered with a local Aldi in Oldsmar, and we're their only food rescue
Really? That's great.
method. Exactly. Yeah. So we last week alone, on a single day, we rescued 530 pounds of food last Thursday, and that's just one of, I think we come every two. So there are pockets of it. There's some big name companies like Aldi and that do not have these organizations or these systems in place to help them recover all of that good food. The amount of food that we're producing, although we have these amazing organizations like Feeding Tampa Bay and Tampa Bay Network to End Hunger, who cover a lot of ground, there's still a lot of smaller businesses as well, like the bodegas and the family-run mom and pop stores and the farmers markets and things, where food waste is still occurring. Food waste is it's far bigger than many people know about. And Feeding Tampa Bay, although they do provide relief for a large amount of food waste here in the area, there's still many pockets where they're unable to get out and provide that relief. So
Yeah, that's where that's sort of by definition, when you get up to larger scale, it does reveal sort of gaps. We did a pretty big project with Feeding Tampa Bay, where we funded delivery trucks to food trucks who are now not operating because people weren't having festivals and whatnot. And they were able to take the Feeding Tampa Bay food and then get it into even apartment complex communities and things like that, and get this, bring it to the people in places that just sort of were in between the cracks, I guess, of the larger food distribution areas. So the granularity works. The problem with granularity can be the economies of it, right? So how far do you drive for how much food? It sounds like with the Aldi deal, that's clearly more than worth it. But then, have you sort of explored what's the minimum amount of food that it's worth having to, get into a car and go, and the whole communication and logistics aspect of it, and then, storage of it? What's sort of the minimum size that you can go where it's still worth it to collect the food?
So there's a lot of factors at play. It's obviously, time. This is all volunteer based at the moment. So, this is 100%. We're working within our free time. What we're able to dedicate to the project. The other thing as well is storage. Storage is a huge factor. It's how much that we can physically take on and store appropriately. We work with a licensed commissary kitchen. They're called the Kitchen 24. They're based in Oldsmar. And they've generously provided us some space. We have access to cold storage, freezer space, dry storage, the kitchen. But it's still, with the amount of food that we receive alone from like our local food partners, it's still not enough. So a lot of the food we're dedicated to serving nutritious meals. So if we get donated things like pastries or soda, things like that, we don't have the capacity to hold on to that food. But part of our mission is reducing food waste. So although that we may not be able to store that food, we'll then try to find other shelters in the area that might be able to receive that food. But yeah, there's a lot of factors at play, and that's something that we're learning as we go. We're doing a pretty amazing job with the amount of time that we're able to dedicate, as well as our storage space. Last week alone, we rescued just under 1,000 pounds of good food in the area of Safety Harbor in Oldsmar, which is pretty incredible considering we got to work around storage and time and the energy. But we are coming to a point where very soon we'll have to start rejecting offers, which is unfortunate. Until we have more funding and we can expand our operations, at this time we have to work with what we're capable of. Because if we start wasting food, then all of a sudden that's going against our mission. Our mission is to be rescuing food. So we have to be honest as well. We have to be realistic with what we actually take on. So.
And how are you determining your distribution points? How are you finding the need and then deciding where specifically to focus on servicing that need?
So in terms of our meal services, we partner actually with a couple of other organizations, family shelters, homeless shelters. We're partnered with Oldsmar Cares, the Maddie Williams Family Center in Safety Harbor, SVDB Cares down in St. Petersburg, as well as Pinellas Hope. Due to COVID, originally these organizations would allow churches and things to come in and physically cook food for the community that they serve. Due to COVID, obviously there's some limitations with regards to how the food is served and how close we can get to the individuals. So we do a lot of packaged food. We use compostable containers to serve them out. But essentially, we partner with these organizations who are already serving. Maddie Williams, for example, I think serves around 120 plus people. Every single week they've got a grocery service. It's a drive-through service. We'll set up once the individuals get their groceries through their car window. We'll then arrive with some prepared meals and takeaway containers that they can then take back to themselves and to their family as well. So definitely partnering with these organizations helps us get or expand our programs and directly help the communities that they serve. And then we have another program down at Williams Park in St. Pete that is just, it has a large community of homeless that gather there at that park. So what we do every Friday morning, we go out, fill our mobile food rescue van with meals. And then we've got a team of volunteers. We'll go out and we'll hand the meals directly to the communities and at the park, sort of thing. So yeah, it's that's something that we're still working on. But at this moment in time, a lot of it is partnering with other organizations in the area, and then looking at public areas where there may be a large amount of food insecure that kind of gather and distributing the meals accordingly. Bigger picture, we eventually want to develop into a food truck, much like the program with Feeding Tampa Bay, and utilize a food truck to go directly into food insecure communities. And that way we can, directly cook and distribute meals within those communities. But yeah, so that's, kind of where we're at the moment.
With cooking with trash, catchy and kind of cool. Have you dug into how you might leverage sort of efforts like that on the front end before the food becomes waste to raise awareness and attack the issue from that end?
Yeah, so actually we've had thoughts of bringing cooking with trash back into 360 Eats, and essentially, although this food hasn't hit the dumpster yet, it's still food that would have otherwise gone to waste. It's still regarded as trash, maybe. So we have actually thought about reintroducing the show into the kitchen and just basically doing what we were doing before, except we're no longer having to dumpster dive the food, and then keeping the cooking with trash name. So I think that's something. Once we get into like a steady, we've gotten there. I think we're very comfortable with our setup and our the rate at which things are progressing. I think now that we're becoming a little bit more comfortable with where our programs are at, we'd like to start introducing like cooking with trash and maybe other cool projects into the pipeline, so we can continue our mission to get the message out there on food waste and food insecurity.
Wonderful. So the website is 360eats.org.
Yep, 360eats.org.
we'll add that below. Cameron, I appreciate your time. It's a cool effort, and we'll look forward to watching you grow it.
Thank you so much, Joe. I appreciate that.